Hi, welcome back to my channel. Here's a fun challenge. Name a single thing that occurs in the 2021 Disney Plus original series, Hawkeye. Don't watch it. Just think what happened in it. Just off the top of my head. I know Kingpin is in it. I know Florence Pugh is in it. I know Hawkeye is in it. And so is Hawkeye. I could name several of the characters, like Red Herring Stepdad, but boy oh boy is the plot fully lost to me. The plot description on Rotten Tomatoes is Clint Barton and Kate Bishop shoot a few arrows and try to avoid becoming the target themselves. So I don't think they know what happened on the show either. I could have told you that just from the poster. You tell me the bowman uses a bow? The only thing I remember that is an event and not a character is that at one point Hawkeye takes his family to see a Broadway musical, Rogers the Musical, and he doesn't like it very much. And now, almost 2 years later, a version of Rogers the Musical exists in California Adventure in Disneyland, in Anaheim, in California, in the United States. I say a version because this is clearly not the same Broadway show as the one on the TV show. It's a half hour. It would be funny if Disney was like, hey, if you want to, you can take 2.5 hours out of your time in our theme park to watch a fully realized stage production. But they didn't do that for whatever reason. Instead, they do this half-hour show 4 times a day, 5 days a week. Talk about people who can do this all day. Talk about people who can... I feel like you're not laughing. It's a good joke. Talk about people... For real, 20 shows a week is a bananas workload. And I feel like I say this about every musical I talk about on this channel, but shout out to the ensemble. The ensemble is always the unsung hero in any musical ever that's ever been put on all time. And here they're once again constantly on the move, playing a bunch of different characters in a bunch of different costumes in a bunch of different time periods. And it feels like whenever anyone is on stage, they're moving at a 10, they're dancing or moving set pieces or doing something, because the show is a half hour and there's a lot to cover. So this thing moves. It swings. While the name and poster suggest that this would be some sort of homage or parody of Hamilton, it's not. The poster is, but the musical isn't. There's even a song called What Did You Miss that opens up what I would consider to be Act 2 of the show. Kind of like how Act 2 of Hamilton opens with a song called What Did I Miss? And Spambleton also has a song called What Did You Miss? And I was like, oh, Spambleton's good. And Spambleton is a parody of Hamilton. So maybe Rogers the Musical also... Rogers the Musical is in no way a spoof or a send-up of Hamilton. It is not pastiche, nor is it... pistachio of anything. Even though it kind of feels like it was supposed to be. It's just weird to take something that in the fiction of the MCU is kind of a cash grab of a show, to take that and be like, oh, we should make a real version of the show in the real world, and it's not a cash grab. I mean, tickets are free if you wait in line. It's also fictionally presented by the Hyperion Theater and Stark Industries.
Now sit back and relax as the Hyperion Theater, in partnership with Stark Industries, presents...
Which means that this musical was greenlit by Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, somebody else with an alliterative name and zero experience producing theater, trying to make sure that Tony Stark looks good. I don't know, but I think that's enough about the logistics of funding a no longer fictional musical. It's time to get out of the weeds and into the show.
The world premiere of Rogers the Musical.
Actually, a couple more things. I have not seen Rogers the Musical in person. I've only seen it on YouTube. But because it's at a theme park, people can just like film the show. So I'm going to be using a couple of different angles of people filming the show just to make sure that I can show everything that I want to. All of their videos are linked in the description. If you would like to watch the musical yourself, do that. I actually think it's fun. I do think that Rogers the Musical is fun. And I'm sure that if I was at Disneyland, I would actually go see it. I made a community post about this already, but I'm in a showcase here in New York City on Tuesday, the 22nd. Tickets are free. It's at New World Stages in Hell's Kitchen. You don't actually even need a ticket. Just show up to the theater. Doors are at 6. Show starts at 6:30. It should be a really good time. Please come to the show. I would really like to see you there. I don't know what I'm going to sing yet, but I have to send them sheet music by tomorrow. So I will have chosen a song, and it's not that I don't like, I'm like, oh, there's nothing I want to sing. There's too many things I want to sing, which is the right problem to have. If you can make it to the show, I would really love to see you there. If you do come, please say hello. I would really like to meet you all. For real now, on to the show! We open on our narrators, the Starkettes, telling us what show we're about to see.
And we're here to tell you a story about superheroes. Romance, time travel.
Believe it or not, we're gonna see a nice young man named Steve become a superhero. That's the story of Rogers the Musical, if you didn't know. I'm all but certain that they're using a track and not an actual live band, which means that these horn players are absolute frauds. They're crooks.
Everybody's jumping for the red, white, and blue. The band sings fun because they you know who. Guys out trying to steal young girls' heart. Keep the eyes on the prize while they're far apart.
This song's setting up the time period, doing some character introductions. Peggy Carter punches someone in the face.
Hey, sweetheart, I want to dance.
Ew.
I said I want to dance.
Hey, show these ladies some respect.
Big words for a little guy.
Pick on someone your own size.
That's great, but most of it is army good.
Extra, extra, read all about it. The war has started, stand up and shout it. Flags are flying, it's time to tout it. And show them what we're made of. Ain't nothing we're afraid of in the good old USA.
So we're gonna blow past this propaganda and take a propaganda at Bucky Barnes.
Steve! Rogers! Bucky! Looks like you got your orders.
Sergeant James Barnes, 107th Division, shipping off for England first thing tomorrow.
I should be going with you.
And I should be dancing with a beautiful dame.
More important things than dancing, Bucky. Bucky?
That's all of Bucky's time on stage in the whole show. I get, we're moving so fast through all of this, but I feel like Steve's relationship to Bucky is pretty core to his character. Even more than his relationship with Peggy, because Peggy is stuck in the past, literally, while Bucky is around. The two of them are chopping it up. I mean, how often is it that you and your best friend both get frozen in time and get to meet up 70 years later?
Welcome to the U.S. Opening. U.S. Opening. U.S. Opening. U.S. Opening night.
They mix in Steve's motif from the movies into this next one, which gets really weird because it's like, okay, they don't know in the MCU about these movies that exist about these characters because they're just living in that universe. They don't know that Alan Silvestri wrote the da-na-na-na-na. They don't know that he wrote that into a score that's in a movie. So to then have a musical writer write that same little musical motif into a song, is that just like parallel thinking, or is, sorry, out of the weeds. I really like that his I Want song, a staple of the musical theater genre, is framed around the I Want You poster, and how in a time when bodies are what's wanted, Steve still isn't.
I want you, it says on the front page. It's time for boys to come of age. I want you, there's a war we gotta wage. Every able-bodied man avail. Well, I'm bodied, but not able. I don't need to write the tale, just want a seat at the table. Come on, Sam.
I think that's clever. I think that's good writing. He tells us he wants to serve his country and stand up for little guys everywhere.
Why can't they see that I would make a difference? I'd rise up tall and look 'em in the eye. Why can't I be there to fight injustice? Lend a hand while I stand up for the little guy. If they only knew everything I'm made of, then they know it's true. There's nothing I'm afraid of.
And it's a cute song.
Come on, Doc. What do you say? There's gotta be a way. You know, I can do this all day.
This is the second time the phrase "I can do this all day" is uttered, and boy is it not the last. It will be said 12 more times. Some might call that overdoing it, whereas I would call them right. Agent Carter and Dr. Erskine recruit Steve Rogers to be the world's first super soldier, no questions asked. That's not true. They do have a couple of questions. It takes 3 questions for Steve to go from not allowed to be in the military to being shoved into the super soldier tube, which is the scientific name for that machine.
Is it true?
Is what true?
You want to go overseas and kill some Nazis?
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
You do realize it's illegal to falsify your enrollment form?
So what? You're gonna arrest me for trying to serve my country?
No. We are seeking someone very special to become America's new hope.
We think we found him.
Who?
Take a deep breath, Mr. Rogers.
Well, maybe you shouldn't examine me in front of such a beautiful dame. A beautiful woman. An agent. You're not beautiful. Oh, you are beautiful.
You have no idea how to talk to a woman, do you?
This is the longest conversation I've had with one.
They're gonna pull a lot of dialogue straight out of the movies. This is an exercise in fan service.
Women aren't exactly lining up to dance with a guy they might step on.
Maybe you just haven't found the right partner.
Pulse elevating.
What I wouldn't give to see Stanley Tucci play sassy Erskine. We've all seen Flickerman at this point, right? He would kill this tiny role in a half-hour show at a theme park. Steve gets into the tube, shouts a little bit.
Wait, shut it down!
No! I can do this!
Comes out big and strong, ready to sing and dance. And not just because this is a musical.
Captain!
No, seriously, what's with the dancers?
Captain!
Oh, he means me. Yes, sir.
You ship out tomorrow.
Germany?
Buffalo. Ever heard of a mascot, Captain America? Sell those war bonds!
Give the axis the sack and as smart as a fox.
Not all of us can storm the beach, but there's still a way we can fight. Read next card. Wait, what?
They also changed one of the lyrics from the original Star Spangled Banner, making it about fighting Hydra instead of about fighting Hitler.
Who's fighting Hydra behind ya and cleaning their box? Who's making it up with brains instead of his box?
I know that we as a general public are aware of Hydra, and that in the universe, Steve Rogers told the general public about Hydra. But like, was the general public in the 1940s, when this song was originally written and conceived, were they aware of Hydra? I don't think so. It also just seems like a weird change, because when I think of Captain America, one of the first things I think of is that comic book cover where he's literally punching Hitler in the face. It's iconic. It's why there's that scene in the movie where he's punching Hitler in the face over and over and over again in the USO shows. At this point, he is in 0 part real life soldier. He is mascot for the USO, trying to get people to buy war bonds. That's what his purpose is. So it just doesn't seem like a change that makes a lot of sense to me. That's really all I'm trying to say here.
Great show, everyone. Man, those streamers are neat.
I do love that this version of Steve Rogers is such a theater kid. I know Chris Evans also is. Please, someone throw him in a musical. And just like the Tooch, he would kill it if he was in this role. But you can't be a theater kid forever. Is that true? Is that... Because if it is, I've got some...
Steve!
Peggy! Oh, Peggy, were you at the show?
Steve,
I wish you'd been at the matinee. The energy was amazing.
Steve! The 107's been captured.
Bucky's battalion gets captured behind enemy lines, so he's got to stop being a mascot for the military and actually go fight to save his friend, who will not appear on stage.
It seems you finally got your chance, but we never got that dance. Because you have to go and do what heroes do. And every time I hear this tune...
Every time I hear this tune, I know she's singing, I hear it in my ears, but like, is there a song playing that she's supposed to be singing to? Is she like every time I say these, what does it mean? Outside the context of a musical, how's that a thing that a normal human would say? I don't know.
I won't forget.
I'll see you soon. Agent Carter, when I return, do you want to go on a date with me?
Be careful, Captain.
I think that means you do.
That almost caress on the elbow and almost touch to the chest gives me nightmares. At this point, it just seems like the two of them are keeping each other apart. We don't have time for people to tell them that they can't be together. So they have to be like, oh, we can't, we mustn't. Even though they could, they totally could. Then we get a montage, which is easier to do in a movie than on stage.
Captain America and the Howling Commandos join forces to fight for freedom. Red Skull and Hydra prove to be no match for America's hero.
Where, once again, they changed the original Star Spangled Man lyrics, which were written by the guy who did Hercules. They're no longer tying a noose on the goose-steppin' goons from Berlin. They're just saying vamoose to them.
Freedom. Red Skull.
I know we're at Disneyland, but I don't think an American soldier during World War II taking out Nazis is historically inaccurate or controversial in any way. But the montage is over, and just like that, Steve is in a jet, ready to crash it into the Arctic.
There's not going to be a safe landing.
This thing's headed straight for New York with enough explosives to wipe out the entire East Coast. I'm somewhere over the Arctic, and I gotta put it down in the ice right away, or a lot of people are gonna die.
Steve asks Peggy to save him a dance, and then the plane goes under the ice.
How about Saturday at 8?
Be late. Saturday at 8. A second chance at my
first dance with Steve.
One thing I was thinking about while watching this is where in a multi-hour, multi-act musical about the life of Steve Rogers do you put intermission? Those concessions will not sell themselves. I think it makes a lot of sense here. You can spend some more time getting to know the characters. You can do a clear distinction between the two time periods when he lived. I wish they would have leaned into that a little bit more, making the 1940s stuff sound more 1940s, because the modern stuff sounds very Pasek and Paul. Plus, if you split it there, you actually get to develop the relationship between Steve and Peggy. I've shown you like 90% of their onstage interaction with each other. We have to move so fast. We know they're gonna end up together because this is a musical based on a TV show set within the canon of a series of movies based off of comic books. Right, but here there's just not time for that relationship really to develop on stage. So I do think in a real long musical, this is where intermission would be. I'm also trying to figure out how comprehensible this is to someone who has not seen any of the Marvel movies. Again, this is an exercise in fan service, so I'm sure most of the people going to see it are fans of all of the source material. But if you're the parent of kids who really like Captain America and you book a trip to Disney and they're like, can we please go see it? You say, sure, but you haven't seen any of these movies. Do you have any idea what's going on? We're 15 minutes in. Steve Rogers has been introduced, gotten big, like that Tom Hanks movie, done the USO tour, actually seen combat, crashed a plane to save everyone else, and had a crush on a girl. What I'm gonna call Act 2 opens with Steve Rogers talking to yassified Nick Fury.
Where am I? You might want to ask, when am I?
To me, this feels like someone at Stark Industries has personal beef with Nick Fury, a man who is still alive at this point, and was like, what if instead of being a grounded, dramatic character, he was this?
You've been there for a while. How long is a while? You've been asleep, Cap, for almost 70 years. I know, right? Well, what's the last thing you remember? Snow. Ice. The Arctic.
Hey, that's the same bit 3 times. The third one's supposed to be different for enhanced comedic effect.
That serum they injected in your body didn't just affect your muscles, it protected your cells. Plus, staying chilled on the rocks probably didn't hurt. Boop! Where's my spot?
Okay, no, I actually do like this guy. This was the right choice. He sings a song called What Did You Miss?, which is about all the things that Steve Rogers missed.
A wall in Berlin, Germany went up and then came down. Steve Jobs invented Apple, now emoji smile and frown.
Emo, what?
Oh, Thai food so delicious, and for Star Wars we are glad. And just in case you didn't know, Darth Vader is his dad.
And in Times Square behind them, there are a bunch of ads for fake things like Red Wing Courier Services and the World Exposition of Tomorrow and Disney World. Some of the things Fury says that Steve missed are really important, but a lot of this song is filler.
I Love Lucy was a TV show that everybody knows, though personally its humor was a little on the nose.
What was that?
I feel like they could have cut that and put in Nixon, or the OJ trial, or the rise of Coco Melon.
5, 6, 7, 8, Nirvana is a band, I know the place.
Wait, stop! Like, I appreciate all of that, but why am I here?
Easy. There's an idea. To bring together a group of remarkable people.
It's finally time. The Avengers get introduced. But they also bring up a bunch of other characters who will one day be in Avengers movies.
Well, they're not here, but there's a panther in Wakanda, a Sokovian named Wanda, a star who is a planet sun, an AI ran his own duck run, a pilot now a glider, and they keep it by a spider.
I don't want to get into the weeds again, but at the time of the Battle of New York, which is even just a little bit before, Wakanda has not shown off any of its technology to the rest of the world. It's still secret, it's still hiding it. US government officials don't know that there's actually like a wealth of technology and riches there. So how would they know about Black Panther? And has Spider-Man even been bitten? Yet he's probably between 9 and 12. So he's definitely still a child. Do people know who Peter Quill is? And if they do know who Peter Quill is, how do they know who Peter Quill's dad is? This just seems like a lot of information that would be in classified documents and not readily available for musical theater writers.
70 years.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's just, I had a date.
That may have to wait.
Attention, citizens of New York. The city is under attack by extraterrestrial invasion. Threat level, red. Repeat, threat level,
who's saying that?
red.
Is that just some random guy on Metro North? And am I supposed to know what threat level red means? I mean, I can assume, but what does that mean that I actually do? What's my course of action there? I didn't go to school in New York until after high school. Most people would call that college. So maybe it's part of their K through 12 education. Then we're in to Save the City. The song that started it all. And honestly, it's a bop.
Save the city, help us win. Save us all from the state we're in. Things look dark, but I know this can't be the end. This can't be the end because
It's way fun. And I understand how from this one song, they were like, we should do a whole show. Because it's fun.
there's a future, I know that. The strength you bring us will rise again. But when we see times, we got to hear you say,
I could do this all.
save the city, help us win.
Avengers Assemble? More like Avengers Ensemble.
We'll blame you then, but you're good for now. Avengers unite.
Oh, they're not even assembling. Got it. Okay. Sorry, that was stupid. I love Loki's look. I love the catchy hook. It's the closest thing the show has to an 11 o'clock number. It's fun. It's just plain fun.
I could do this all.
Save the city, help us win. Save us all from the state we're in.
Then Steve fights all the fights we know he fights until he's so tired, so sleepy, and he just needs to take a nap.
Got to hear you, got to hear you, got to hear you say.
I could do this all day.
This is when old man Steve Rogers, played by the same guy who played scrawny Steve, enters our tale. I love this choice so much. I think it's the most musical theater decision to make, and it works so well.
I know what you're thinking. I'm glad we keep our hair too.
They sit on this bench with such convenient shield holders and talk about what comes next for the two of them.
So here I am, now and also then, just one man, back in where he's been.
The road is rough, but wounds are healed by a thing called time.
Can't forget what's waiting.
I won't forget what's waiting.
Don't forget what's waiting.
It's a lovely little duet. We get a second look at Bucky and a visual of Sam Wilson as Captain America, someone who is just not in this musical at all. This omission makes a little more sense than Bucky, again, half hour, but it is kind of weird to do a musical about Captain America and not even have a line that's like, oh, by the way, this guy's Captain America now. You all know. I handed the mantle off to him. But the duet that young and old Steve sing is about being with someone until the end of the line. And we all know who Steve is always saying that he's with until the end of the line. That's right. It's Peggy. So Steve takes the time stone and goes back to the 1940s to be with Peggy Carter. She's standing outside of the Start Club after what I can only assume to have been a funeral, given the bells that are playing. She waits here every week because this is the spot where she and Steve said they would go on their date. That never happened. So either she's just doing this to remember him, or there's some part of her that hopes that he'll show up one day. After years of being apart, years of pining and wishing you could be with this one person, they talk like 20 feet away from each other when they first see each other again.
A stolen chance, a lost romance with you. You're late.
Sorry, I lost track of time.
I can't believe how lives can change.
All of the barriers, both literal and metaphysical, to them being together have been removed. They're just having a conversation across the stage. Why do they not immediately rush to one another?
Let fate design our place in time from here.
Oh, you're gonna meander downstage? No! Sorry. This staging just really, it upsets me. I thought you guys were so in love. That's the plot of the show. Go be in love.
You knew right from the start all that I was made of. Now one more day apart is all that I'm afraid of.
Then go be together. If you're so afraid of being apart, why are you? Huh?
So what's a guy to do?
A guy should walk over to her. Really, a guy should run over to her. But at this point, I'll take any movement in her direction. They do eventually embrace, but fuck if it takes some convincing.
I could do this all day.
Saying I could do this all day before kissing someone is absolute horn dog behavior. Steve Rogers is a whore. I mean, you have to be a horn dog to, when given the gift of time travel, go, you know what, screw this. I'm going back in time to be with the first woman who showed me any romantic interest. And then it's time for our big finale. They go through all this work to make Steve Rogers' life story a love story instead of a story with some romantic love in it. And then they get to the end and they go, oh man, oh poop! We gotta end this on an upbeat number. I know. Save the city. Even though you explicitly made a decision to no longer be saving the city. You gave up your avenging. You went back in time to be with the person who you love. You're no longer doing all that superhero business. No, save the city, help us win.
Save us all from the state we're in.
And then Bucky shows up.
Save the city, help us win.
Don't forget who's waiting.
Oh, I get it now. So old man Steve gave young Steve the time stone to go see Bucky. That's why Bucky was on the screen in the green. But young horn dog Steve took it and was like, man, I'm going to go get kissed. Steve Rogers' story has an ending, like it or not. And I go back and forth on whether I like it or not. But instead of committing to that, they go back and like do a recap and bring a bunch of characters in who aren't there at the end of his story, but they don't even talk about what's coming next. They're just like, hey, remember what you did? Because we just saw it. It was a half hour. We all remember it. What if at the end of Hamilton, instead of Eliza coming out, telling everybody everything that happens in the future, going over what happens to all the other characters, Aaron Burr comes out and is like, ready? Okay. Hammy crossed the bridge and he never came back. When he put his guard down, I did a sneak attack. I kind of wish they would have ended it at the ending. You know? Two people who are in love but can't be together because of obstacles, overcoming those obstacles and finally getting to start a life together is interesting and dramatic. It works dramaturgically.
I could do this all.
Save the city, help us win. Save us all from the state we're in. Just to hear you say, we can do this all day.
But that's it. That's Rogers the Musical. I told you it moves quick. Half-hour musicals don't really exist, but they are the perfect length for a commentary video because I don't have to cut out an entire subplot just to make this less than an hour long. There are no subplots. There's no subplots. There's no subtext. There's no submarine from the first movie because we did not have time. I do think this show is fun in a don't think about it too hard, don't get into the weeds too much kind of a way. It gets messy in there, but that's why I stay out of the garden on this one. A lot of the songs are catchy. I'll find myself humming Save the City or Star Spangled Man or the one that he sings, the I Want song. They're fun. They're catchy little tunes. I'm always happy to see live performance like this at a theme park, especially something that's like an actual show with a plot and characters. I think that's important and it exposes more people to theater. I'm sure there are rambunctious kids who couldn't sit through an entire performance of The Lion King, but they can sit through a half hour and stay in their seat and watch Captain America and they'd really like it. And if that gets more people into theater, that's great. That's what it's all about. And that's what I care about, really, is just that more people continue to consume and enjoy theater. And I'm glad that this is just something you can watch on YouTube if you can't actually go to the theme park. It's a lovely little musical. That's all it's trying to be. That's all it is. And that makes me happy. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you wouldn't mind leaving a like or subscribing, I'd really appreciate that. Again, show on the 22nd. If you can make it, I would really like to see you there. If not, I will try to record it and I will post that on this YouTube channel. So that'll be fun. Some Harry singing content that's like actually on a stage. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go eat some lunch. But thanks again for watching this video. It really does mean a lot to me. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Widowy Steve Wajos becomes a faux Super Sojo, and it's pretty epic. He gets big muscles, and he could throw a shield will we fall and will we accurate we so that it bounces back always.